How we assert ourselves is a measure of how we deal with authority and control, and it is of significant consequence to our working relationships and performance. It is also one of the most critical factors influencing the amount of trust that gets established between people. This factor has an almost invisible and intuitive impact on how much trust we give and receive. So let's take a look at how you assert yourself. How you assert yourself is how you approach direction and control, and how you want and need to be in control. Are you low-key, laid-back, non-assertive, and easygoing, or are you more of a take-charge person who likes to direct and control activities? If your control score is high, you prefer a direct and assertive approach to getting things done. You respect authority and you want to know specifically who is in charge. If you were a colonel in the Army, you would expect junior ranking officers and all enlisted personnel to salute you, but you would have no problem at all in saluting the generals. Authority goes in both directions. You value a clearly defined chain of command. Your philosophy of life goes something like, if we don't tell those rascals what to do, it just won't get done. You don't necessarily confront things, you just address them head on, and that's one of your great strengths. And high control is a part of being competitive. One of the potential on-the-job implications for you is that some people will feel intimidated by your directness and they will choose to back away. What you see as merely being direct, they will see as confrontational. You might limit the amount of collaboration you achieve with others, so I strongly recommend that you learn to put question marks at the end of most of your sentences, rather than periods, and especially instead of exclamation points. Spend more time asking rather than telling people what needs to be done. If your passivity score is high, you prefer to approach life in a more indirect way. You don't like conflict and confrontation. In fact, you hate it. You want to ask others and to be asked yourself. You do not like to demand or be demanded of. Your philosophy of life goes something like, people ought to do what people ought to do. Golly shucks, gee whiz. Not because we make them. They should just do it because they're supposed to. Most of the time, you are not a demanding person, and you exercise authority in a very low-key way, and that's one of your great strengths. One of the potential on-the-job implications for you is that you will avoid dealing with uncomfortable issues, sometimes until they are a crisis. Others may perceive this as a weakness on your part. Develop the discipline to address problems when they first occur, because in doing this, you can often prevent small problems from becoming a major crisis. If your score is more moderate and leaning toward control, it means that you're moderately direct and assertive most of the time, but you will behave somewhat low-key and easygoing until things are not working, and then you will assert yourself more than people probably expect. That's a polite way of saying that you may get more demanding when things don't work. You may even have a temper. One of the potential on-the-job implications for you is that you may appear to be more low-key about things than you really are. You need and respect authority and want to know who's in control. So speak up more often and earlier about what you believe and think needs to happen. Be more proactive about your point of view. If your score is more moderate and leaning toward passivity, it means that you really do prefer a low-key, non-confrontational approach, and you do not want to be controlled by anyone else. What can often happen for people like you is that they avoid hitting problems head-on until they really are a big deal crises. Then, when they do confront, they simply don't do it well at all. It can become explosive, even nuclear, because they are so far out of their comfort zone that their skills and confidence don't serve them or the people around them very well or in a very productive way. One of the potential on-the-job implications for you is that you may appear so low-key that you can scare the guacamole out of us when you have a really bad hair day. You can shock and awe us with your unexpected surge in behavior. Again, the solution is to deal with things when they are little and don't let them get big. I mentioned at the beginning of this session that this factor of our behavior has significant influence on how we establish and sustain trust in our relationships. There is something almost chemical about how this works. High control people don't feel confidence in high passivity people. There's a suspicion that they're not strong enough or trustworthy. High passivity people don't feel comfortable around high control people. They feel a pressure of discomfort and intimidation. Once again, what I've learned through the years is that we need to use question marks as much as possible. Question marks at the end of our sentences work so much better with everyone, no matter what the preferred approach. Much more than periods and those darn exclamation points. Try it. You'll like it. Won't you? Well, that's your behavioral dashboard on asserting yourself. I really hope the information and insight is useful and that you will assume more personal accountability for applying this self-insight into your relationships and your communication with others. And remember, this information is not just relevant on the job, it's important in every relationship in your life. Our next session looks at how you express your feelings. I think you will find that behavioral dashboard of real importance too. See you then.